Well, hello everyone. My name is Erin Gruel with the Freedom Writers, and I am so honored to have you join my exquisite guest today for a tribute and a celebration of sorts of what would be the 91st birthday of Anne Frank. And in that honor and in that celebration, we have gathered some thought leaders, activists, and actors, and people who believe that we can be the change we wish to see. So, over the next hour, I am so thrilled to invite you into our world, to invite you to meet these guests who each and every one of them have a very special connection to Anne Frank and her legacy, the power of her words, and the belief that everything that is happening in the world today can be changed if we stand up, if we speak up, if we use words rather than weapons, and we are that change. So, what I'd like to do briefly before I begin introducing the question portion of this presentation is I would like to introduce these fabulous folks to you. So, first and foremost, I would like to introduce Margaret Pollock. She is the daughter of two Dutch Holocaust survivors, and her story was so exquisitely told, first in a book and then in a moving, award-winning documentary called Still a Pencil for Me. And we'll be seeing a trailer to this award-winning documentary shortly. But I'd like for all of you to say hello to Miss Margaret Pollock, who is now the founder of an organization right here in Los Angeles called Anne Frank LA. Hello, Margaret.
Hi, Erin. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, I can't wait for your wisdom and your sound words. In addition to Margaret, we have one of her dear friends. You've probably seen his face in dozens of movies and plays. But I think more than just being an actor, he's an activist. He is provocative. And he is currently turning a one-act play on Otto Frank into something that will be coming to theaters and television sets in the very near future. I last night sat down and watched one of his most incredible pieces, currently on Netflix, about the Rodney King riots. He is dear friends with Spike Lee. Often he works beside and many of his projects. So I would like to introduce Roger Guenveur Smith. Hello, Roger.
Hello, how are you?
Oh,
I hope you're good today. It's a beautiful day here in Los Angeles, and it's a wonderful day to celebrate the birthday of Anne Frank, a girl who created something of enduring value, a guidepost still for us in this century.
And what I'm thrilled about for you at home is that Roger has graciously agreed throughout this presentation that he is going to give us a sneak peek of the rendition he's created about Otto Frank. So a little bit later, he will transform before our very eyes into that gentle soul, Otto Frank. In addition to Roger, we have an original freedom writer. Her name is Chanita Jones. She too is an author. She too has had her story told both in a feature film and a documentary alongside the Freedom Writers. And she's an activist, just like Roger. She has traveled the world. Most recently, she was in the Middle East, in Israel and the Palestinian territories, talking to educators about the power of the pen, the power of peace. So say hello to our amazing audience, Chanita.
Hello, everyone. I would love to say happy birthday. 91st birthday, Anne Frank.
Oh, love it. And the Peace Day Resistance, we really created a platform for these two beautiful boys that we have all fallen in love with. They're storytellers, they were docents, and they are the face of Anne Frank. From the age of 13 to 15, Anne was given that beautiful checkered diary, and she wrote. And she hoped that people on every corner and every continent would read her words. She wanted to be a journalist. So the fact that her words are still relevant with the youth is so powerful. So we have two young men who were selected in a school district of nearly 34,000 students. They were two of the students selected to be docents for the traveling Anne Frank exhibit that came to both of their middle schools. We have both Joseph Horowitz from Landmark Middle School, and we have Jeremiah Massengill from Mountain View Middle School. Say hello, Joseph, to our audience. And Jeremiah, do you want to say hello as well?
Hello, I wanted to tell you guys is to make sure you always believe in yourselves every day and be positive to other people around the world.
Oh, our work is done here. Our work is done. Actually, our work is just beginning. To do honor to my guest, what we were able to prepare was a way to celebrate them. There is often the light and the mirror that reflects it. And so today we chose vignettes that is the reflection of their light. Their light is a beacon in dark times. And we are living through some dark times, both with a pandemic and protest. And for those of you at home, both Joseph and Jeremiah here in California are part of the millions of students who had their foundation rocked when suddenly their schools shut. They had virtual classrooms and they've not been with their friends since the second week of March. So it's been really trying times. And in the middle of all that, we've had protests. So this is going to be a very lively discussion today. But to show that light and the mirror that reflects it, the first thing I'd like to do to set the stage and the context is we are here celebrating a beautiful young girl, what would have been her 91st birthday, who was captured. And for those of you that don't know, on August 4th, 1944, Anne Frank and 7 others were captured in that attic. The rumor was that you could turn in a Jew in hiding for $2. Imagine that, for $2. So for $16, 8 people were taken off to you take $2 then and $20 now. On August 4th, Anne Frank was taken to Westerbork, a holding camp that often took Jews directly to Auschwitz. Our guest today, Margaret Pollock, had parents who knew the Franks, went to the same schools, celebrated the same holidays, walked in the same square. And so Margaret Pollock has a mother and a father who were Dutch, friends with the Franks. And unlike Anne, her parents survived. And unlike Anne, her parents have continued to fight for decades. So Margaret was able to find a lifeline to their past to bring us into their present. Letters, beautiful letters that were written from her father to her mother in these concentration camps that became the subject of a book and an incredible documentary. So Margaret, I'd like to show the trailer of this amazing piece because I think it sets the stage of the Netherlands, it sets the stage of the camps, and it sets the stage of the work that you have tirelessly done alongside your parents for decades. So can you just tell us a little bit about this trailer that we're about to see?
The film Steal a Pencil for Me chronicles their love story through World War II, as you just said. In the trailer, you'll see the Germans invading Amsterdam, and you'll see the shock on everyone's faces and the way they're brutally hurted and beaten. And then a little light in this dark time that they fell in love. You'll see that they have a historical trauma from that we as Jews relate to in the Black Lives Matter movement. We can't be identified by the color of our skin. At that time, we were identified by having to wear a patch on our clothes. This was one of my father's Jewish stars that he had to have pinned to his clothes so that he could be identified. That was his mark. And they survived and they made a good life. And my father and my mother both devoted themselves with all their hearts and souls to speak out against discrimination, to speak out saying that we are all one. There is no such thing as color. There is no such thing as difference. We are all human beings that need to treat each other with dignity and respect. My father founded the Anne Frank Center, which is now called the Anne Frank Center for Mutual Respect, which is still going strong and giving out the award today that Erin received. Erin was presented the award by my father about 15 years ago now. So yeah, that's what you're going to see in the trailer. It was directed by Michelle O'Hayan, and you can still watch it on Netflix.
So for all of you at home, we're going to give you just a small sample. I think it sets the stage, but my hope is that this is so moving that you're so curious that you want more, that you need more, and you will seek more. So without further ado, this is the trailer for Still a Pencil for Me. That you're so curious that you want more, that you need more, and you will seek more. So without further ado, this is the trailer for Still a Pencil for Me. That you're so curious that you want.
Give me 1 second, sorry.
Okay, little technical difficulty. Just one moment. For all of you teachers that are watching, you feel my pain. This is what online school has become. Technical glitches and moments of panic.
I will never forget coming in that room and seeing a beautiful girl sitting there. And I said, my God, I wish I was married to that girl. She was very well-to-do, and I was basically poor. But I said, it's a passing thing. I will never see that girl anymore.
May 10th, 1940. We heard planes flying over, and we heard shooting. And we just knew we had been invaded. Things started to happen.
The poor people were sent away first, and then the middle class, and then the rich people. The Germans were raiding homes, knocking on doors, and say, are the Jews living here? When we came into Westerbork, I was in a camp with my wife and my girlfriend, and believe me, that was not easy. Every week a train left. Westerbork, Auschwitz, Auschwitz, Westerbork. And they all were killed.
Sweet darling, this morning we received our notice that we will be transported to another camp. I hope that you will soon follow me.
My always dearest love, I have much hope that we will find each other wherever we may land.
I'm writing with a pencil stub. Darling, try to steal a pencil for me somewhere. Much, much love.
What I love about that trailer, what I love about the film, and what I love about your family, Margaret, is what they've instilled in you, your daughter Sophie, and all that you touch is love instead of hate, hugs instead of hate. So what was that like to grow up as a daughter, a Dutch daughter in America, New York no less, not understanding the magnitude of that kind of systematic discrimination, intolerance, and the near extermination of an entire race? What was that like to grow up in that shadow?
The experience was one of growing up with fear, because I wasn't told what they'd been through, but I could feel their nerves from it all. I knew that I wasn't supposed to tell people I was Jewish, because As my mom said, you don't advertise. I had dreams about Nazis before I knew they existed. There were a lot of pictures of people that had passed away, young, beautiful faces that already looked like old photographs. I'd ask who they were, and I'd just get, they're not here anymore. So I had to put the pieces together as a young adult. And I have to correct myself, because my husband, Harvey, told me that I said the Germans, and I shouldn't say the Germans, I should say the Nazis, because one of the things that my father taught was you do not generalize about any group. You cannot say the Germans were all. The Nazis specifically were part of a party that did horrible things. And the cops, you don't say the cops, but both, you can say those specific cops. So I just want to make sure, don't generalize is one of the messages that I
as an English teacher, I love that you clarify, because there is power with words and language. And how we were brought together is the Freedom Writers applied for the Spirit of Anne Frank Award. And it is behind me. You can see that actual poster that we took home as a souvenir. Chanita was one of those original Freedom Writers who, in the 1992 riots, lived here in Los Angeles and saw the devastation. And as a student, was able to pick up a pen to write her story that is now part of the Freedom Writers Diary. And her senior year, we applied for the Spirit of Anne Frank Award, and we won. And I had to figure out, how do I take as many students as I can from Los Angeles to New York City? And unbeknownst to us, your beloved father handed the award to us. And so, Chanita, you will see yourself standing behind the actress Linda Lavin, who at that time was in the Broadway adaptation of Anne Frank. We got to see Natalie Portman play Anne Frank as part of our award. But I'd like to show just a brief snippet of your father speaking to us and us receiving the Spirit of Anne Frank Award from the incredible organization that your parents founded. So for a brief moment, we're going to take you back in time. You will see my students and Chanita standing on that stage and winning the most coveted award we could have ever expected to win.
So today we have...
When they finished reading the diary of Anne Frank, Gurel brought in a Holocaust survivor.
And then we met a survivor. That was it was so overwhelming, because someone had been there. Everyone was crying. It was amazing.
No book had ever affected me more than the Anne Frank diary, you know.
Then on to New York City, where they received a tribute they had never dreamed of, the Spirit of Anne Frank Award.
And how proud I am to be part of the human race, looking at you.
So in my hands, Chanita, is the copy of the book that I gave you as a teenager, next to the 20th anniversary of the book that you also wrote. So as a young woman who was given this opportunity to read this book, as a young woman to go to New York and receive that award from Margaret's father, and as a young woman to travel to Israel and to meet Israeli and Palestinian teachers in the Middle East, I'd like for you to tell us what that was like, how that took a girl from Los Angeles who had experienced those riots as a teenager to use your voice in a different way.
Well, as a young girl, you don't realize the power that you have. And I think in those moments, we realize that you actually do have more power than you think you do. Having the opportunities that was given to us, I would say it was mind-blowing, but at the same time, you would think that, do I deserve this? And when you sit back and you realize all the work that you put in it, all the times that you erased and poured your heart out onto those sheets of papers and tried it over and erased, and when that thought it again, you realize you actually do deserve this opportunity. Because with living in the hood, you don't get a lot of opportunities. And so when you actually get the opportunities that you thought you, once again, was not given or didn't earn, you actually grab them and hold on to it with two hands. You're not going to pass up on any opportunities. So going from a young child to an adult, you realize that no matter what it is, you have choices. And you don't let anyone tell you that you don't have a choice, because you really do. And as a child, your innocence is already in there. As an adult, it's kind of biased because you've already had experiences that kind of change those things. So having opportunities without the biasness is pure. And so having an opportunity to tell people that you can actually do what you want to and put your heart into it and accomplish it. And really mean that genuinely, because you done it, and you done it over and over again, be able to go somewhere as a senior and, as an adult going all the way to Israel, you realize that you continue to spread what you thought you didn't have. And that is opportunities to give other people those same chances.
Margaret, what was that like to see your father at that podium?
Just now, I just wanted to leap into the screen and give him a hug.
What I was telling the young gentleman before we began is that your father lived a remarkable life. Tell the audience how old your father was when he sadly passed away. But it's remarkable because they tried to take his life at a concentration camp and he beat those odds.
He lived to be 102 and died in his own home with me by his side. And he always said that his life really began at liberation. He had a second life. So he really wasn't 102. He was more like 60.
Oh.
And my mom sadly passed away at 91, and she lived such a great full life. And to think today that Anne Frank would have turned 91 and all that she could have experienced.
There's so much synergy. Chanita is a proud mother, and our next guest, Roger, is a proud father. And what I love that Roger has dedicated his life to is making people think and often be uncomfortable and encouraging courageous conversations. And Roger, what I love that you have been able to do is to take this image of Otto Frank and bring it to life. So I'd like for you to talk about this trajectory of taking these provocative roles in films and one-act plays that you've created. And then what was your decision to create something about Otto Frank? I find that journey fascinating. So can you share with our audience how your roles have evolved, and specifically to this most present role of Otto Frank?
Well, Otto Frank was the father of Anne Frank and also of Margot Frank, Anne's sister, her older sister. And he was, of course, the only survivor of his immediate family. He lost his wife and two daughters in the Nazi death camp. He was handed the famous diary now of his daughter when he returned from the war. It was hoped that the diary would be handed to its creator, but it tragically was not. And he contemplated over many months what he was going to do with that diary. It had initially been a gift that was given to her from him for her 13th birthday, this day, actually. And it took him months to even get through it, as you can only imagine, to receive that kind of document where your daughter, your deceased daughter, your murdered daughter is pouring her heart out with probably the knowledge that she would be touching a world far beyond Amsterdam. And this was her great wish, and that wish was incredibly granted by her father, Otto, who so generously and fastidiously lent himself to the not easy business of getting her work out there for the rest of his very long life. He remarried a survivor who had a daughter as well who was a survivor, and you actually sponsored a wonderful evening with Eva Schloss, who was the stepdaughter of Otto Frank, and I had the opportunity to hear her speak there.
Oh.
I also had the opportunity to go to the Anne Frank House in Amsterdam. And oddly enough, it was Rodney King who took me there because I was invited to participate in a theater festival, an international theater festival in Amsterdam. And of course, when I had a morning off, that's the first place that I went. And it was there that all of the stars, I think, were aligned to start working on this Otto Frank solo performance.
For those that know me, Roger, I love to give people homework assignments. I don't grade them, but I just want them to read and to see and explore. And rewatching your Rodney King special on Netflix, the one thing that riveted me the most was the drama of the actual baton, the sound effects. And in preparation for today, what I was so excited about is that we weren't going to just show you standing on a stage, that you asked to actually be able to perform a piece of this original Otto Frank performance that you created. So they can do their homework. They can go back tonight and watch you on Netflix. But for our audience, this is an incredible sneak peek to something that I think will be taught in classes and universities forever. Your tribute to this noble man. So would you grace us with just a glimpse of how you were able to encapsulate Otto Frank?
Thank you for your very kind invitation. This is a glimpse of perhaps what happened June 12th, 1942. And so, to you, do I give this small checkered book empty. Fill it with your dreams and your nightmares. And by all means, do try to live up to the meaning of your two given names, Grace and, yes, God is my vow. And now, will I wish you the happiest of birthdays, my child. Lucky number 13. You're a Gemini. Stubborn and star-crossed, and the apple of your father's eye. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Anna. Happy birthday to you.
Roger, that was exquisite. That was exquisite. And in feeling this emotion, I want to look at this beautiful boy. When I met him, Joseph had just turned 13. And in the Jewish faith, 13 is a really important number, as you just mentioned with Anne's diary. Her 13th birthday would have meant she had a bat mitzvah. And this beautiful boy, Joseph, has yet to have an opportunity to have his bar mitzvah. Because right now, Joseph is in foster care, loving family, but has not had the opportunity to do what Anne and so many others desperately deserved. So Joseph, I said we were going to get emotional on this call, and you said, I don't get emotional, but I said it was okay. How did that feel, watching this esteemed actor incarnate Otto Frank on Anne Frank's 13th birthday? What was that like to watch and to know?
Well, it was a bit weird to see like him turn from like this dude to like Otto basically in like 3 seconds, and the voice change and the hint of an accent, obviously the ability to generate emotion like that in such a short period of time. I know why he's an astounding actor for that reason.
Jeremiah, I see that beautiful face. What was that like to watch Roger transform before our very eyes? Because I know you have shed tears with me before. What was that like for you to watch that happen before our very eyes and envision Otto Frank giving that checker diary to Anne?
It feels like Anne Frank lost her life to the Nazis, and seeing an actor turn himself into Anne Frank's father, Otto Frank, singing happy birthday to her on her 13th birthday, it feels like she was going to live a long life for her bar mitzvah, but she didn't because she lost it because of the Nazis, and she didn't do anything wrong, or because she was just a Jewish person and she felt like she wanted to have a good birthday and spend more time with her father.
What I'd like to do for our audience, Joseph and Jeremiah, is I want to give them some context of why we asked you to join a panel with Margaret and Roger and Chanita. And that's because you were chosen to represent an entire school district, an incredible school district that had had a painful loss. Anne Frank lost her life at the age of 15. And someone in your school district, Diego, lost his life at the age of 13 this year. And as a country, we are reeling from the loss of so many beautiful souls: George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the list goes on. Because of that death at the hands of students, what your district experienced was people watched, they recorded, they felt helpless, and somebody passed away. And you two were chosen to be upstanders rather than bystanders, to understand the importance of intervening, the importance of saying something and doing something. And so the Traveling Anne Frank exhibit came to your schools, and you were able to lead thousands of students through this unbelievable exhibit. So for a brief moment, I'd like to show the world the faces of your community, the exhibit that you were docents, and then we're going to talk about that, what that experience was like to bring Anne Frank's legacy to life at a time when people were hurting, and the two of you allowed them to heal. So let's take a look at what it was like to bring that exhibit to your school district.
So today we have the Anne Frank exhibit here at our site. Our students were trained back in December, a couple of days by some phenomenal people that work for the Anne Frank in Amsterdam. And lucky for us, we were able to get them to train our students to be able to be the tour guides of the exhibit.
This is the Anne Frank exhibit. Anne Frank was a witness of the Holocaust. The Holocaust is when Hitler took over Germany. And also Anne Frank had a diary. Sadly, she died of a disease at 15, and then her father created her diary into a book because that was her dream.
I just want everyone to know how proud we are that the Anne Frank exhibit is here in Moreno Valley Unified School District, the first school district in the nation to host this. And I just want the community to know that we are reminded that we have to be better people. And so we're proud that more students will experience this in families and community, because that's truly the way we become hearts united and unify ourselves to be peace champions.
Today's experience with the Anne Frank exhibit was definitely eye-opening, and the students were amazing. They really taught us a lot. You know, I'm somewhat familiar with what happened in World War II, but they completely opened my eyes to something, a different side of the story. So I just completely give them props to the students. They did an amazing job.
Joseph Horowitz, you were chosen and you were selected, an opportunity that Margaret and all of her friends were able to provide for you to be a docent. That's a really big word. What was it like to be chosen to be able to learn more about Anne Frank and then guide your fellow students through that incredible exhibit? Tell us what that was like for you.
Well, it wasn't exactly eye-opening to me. Well, only because I knew quite a bit about it beforehand. But it was nice to see, you know, that people were enlightening themselves and learning about something that some people considered the topic controversial. But controversy is good because it gets us talking and it gets us thinking. And so it was a great experience to, you know, be a docent and show people around the exhibit, and it was fun. It was a fun experience.
Joseph, I know this might be a little tender subject, but this is a loving group. When we met you, you had shared with us that being a young boy who was Jewish and being in foster care has been really difficult because some people didn't understand your culture and your heritage. And you told me that being a docent made you really proud of being Jewish. So can you talk about that? What was that like? Maybe, I know you have an amazing foster family now, but what was that like before when maybe they didn't understand your culture, didn't understand about Anne Frank?
Well, I mean, you can't blame everybody for, you know, not knowing about a certain culture, because although I'm Jewish, I mean, the Jewish population is very small, so knowing about it is actually, if you know about it, it's surprising to most Jewish people. So, but it was, I didn't exactly I wasn't confused or that people didn't know about my culture or my previous foster parents didn't know about my culture, because most don't. And so, although the previous ones didn't exactly understand me, it's okay because these new ones are great. So.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to talk to them, and they're very loving. Speaking of loving, Jeremiah, I got to learn all about your grandma. And for you, Jeremiah, you are a little younger than Joseph. You were in 6th grade when you were selected. What was that like to be a 6th grader and to show an entire school this exhibit? You were showing teachers, principals, a superintendent, even older students. What was that like to be 11 years old and have this amazing platform, Jeremiah, to talk about Anne Frank? Oh, Jeremiah, we having a little technical difficulties. I apologize, Jeremiah. Can you speak a little louder, Jeremiah? Okay, Jeremiah. Ooh, Jeremiah, my sweet. Jeremiah, I'm gonna stop you for a moment. Jeremiah, we're gonna come back to you in a moment because we're gonna work on your volume. This is the power of live and the power of Zoom in a pandemic. And Jeremiah, we're gonna come back to you in a moment. And I'm gonna pivot from Jeremiah back to Roger.
Because a young girl lost her life in a concentration camp because.
Okay, are you better? There we go. Perfect. Jeremiah, we lost some sound for a moment, but I want you to go back and answer from the beginning. We had a little bit of a technical glitch. So can you do that answer yet again?
It was a little nerve-wracking because we learned about a young girl that lost her life in a concentration camp. And there was many families that had some families that were Jewish, and just like Joseph, it was a little nerve-wracking because she didn't live the fullest. She didn't know how to figure out what to do, but her father gave her that journal because she knew what to do with it, because she wanted everyone to know about her feelings. And showing the teachers and principals and the district board, it felt very good because I wanted to teach them more about Anne Frank's past.
If we don't know our past, we're sometimes doomed to repeat those same mistakes. So I'd like to turn to Roger. Roger, you have always been at the forefront of the ethical and moral compass, and our country and our politicians play catch up. But I feel like you're always on the right side. But I'd like for you to talk about what it's been like for you as of late. You have performed this incredible play in March, and we found ourselves shortly thereafter in a pandemic and then protest. And you have lived this before with riots in the past. You are friends with Rodney King. So what is it like now for you to see protest, to protest yourself, to be able to have a platform where you want people in solidarity to be able to speak, to be able to be seen, and to matter?
Well, a couple of things. I did not perform in March. I was scheduled to perform in March, but of course I was not able to, because the theater that I was scheduled to perform in, my home theater, Bootleg Theater here in Los Angeles, was shut down.
That's right.
And so it didn't happen. I was at Bootleg in December, and I did only 2 nights there, but they were wonderful nights.
It was sold out. It was standing room only. That's how great it was.
It was. And we were looking forward to so much more, and there was a lot more scheduled to happen for the duration of this year going into next year. In fact, we were to premiere at the Public Theater in New York for their Under the Radar Festival in January, but I doubt if that will be a live experience. That will probably be a virtual festival. I was not friends with Rodney King. I did not know him personally, but I was certainly inspired by him. I felt that he was a great symbol of endurance. And I think that the speech that he gave, May Day, May 1st, 1992, was one of the great American speeches. It was improvised. He was given a speech from his lawyers, which he rejected. And he said, you know, can we all get along? Can we get along? Can we get along? And he dared to answer his question at the end of that speech when he said, yes, we can get along. We just have to, you know, work it out. We're all stuck here together for a while. So, you know, let's work it out. And, you know, oddly enough, it was Rodney King who brought me to Otto Frank, as I said earlier. And Rodney King, I think, has brought us all to this particular American moment. In 1991, the evening of March 3rd, when he was savagely beaten by officers Kuhn, Powell, Brasino, and Wind of the Los Angeles Police Department, and a video which was taken by a guy by the name of George Holliday, who was just testing out his new technology, his video cam. When that went viral, before viral was really viral, we were shocked. We who grew up in Los Angeles knew that that kind of misbehavior was endemic, but we had not, as a world, witnessed it in that way. There was a girl, 15 years old, by the name of Latasha Harlins, who at the same time period lost her life in conflict with a proprietor of a market. And her killing was seen on video as well. And the killing of Latasha Harlins, I think, sparked what happened the evening of April 29th, 1992, as much as those not guilty verdicts that were rendered for officers Kuhn, Powell, Brasino, and Wind in Simi Valley, California, which then ignited Los Angeles for the second time in my lifetime. As a child, I witnessed the Los Angeles riots of 1965, and then as a young adult in 92, and now here we are in 2020, and once again, I'm witnessing Los Angeles blow up. Why? Well, there are many, many reasons why, but considering that it's Anne Frank's 91st birthday, I think that we can make the correlation when we talk about the abuse of state power, which is not ethnically or racially relegated, but rather expressed through the corruption of the state, wherein the state is in conflict, often violent conflict with its own people. And we saw a tragic and unnecessary example of that in Washington, D.C. just last week, when the troops were turned against the people who were protesting, expressing their First Amendment free speech rights. And they were summarily dealt with as a so-called leader took a photo opportunity.
I'm glad you said that, Roger, because one of the questions that I received from a young girl named Charlotte Fishman, I think I'll direct this to you, Margaret, is Charlotte wanted to know that if Anne Frank was still here, do you think that she would have been involved? Do you think she would have been out on the streets protesting? Do you think she would have used her voice and her writing skills to be heard. What would you say to all those young people then about if Anne Frank was here? Where do you think she would be on the right side of history?
I'm watching Roger's son over his shoulder.
So sweet.
And the inciting. I'm imagining Roger as a young boy in the 60s, also with the feelings and wanting to make change and not knowing how. Anne at 13 would probably be a different case to Anne at 15 in this time period. Would mom and dad let her go out without her mask? Probably not. She might have snuck out anyway. She was a wild, unbridled soul, and she would have had to do something because she couldn't stand injustice. And she would have had to go out, and she probably would have been the first one with the megaphone. Would have made up chants, which would have become national chants for me.
Signs and marching. Chanita, I want to ask you, because so much of the Freedom Riders story, its origin was in the words that Anne Frank said, and in spite of everything, I truly believe that people are good at heart. And I know you believe that. You are the embodiment, that you believe that people are good at heart. But you are also a mother with sons. And we've seen so many mothers lose their sons. So can you talk about what that's like when you are a mother? You have a son who just finished his first year at the university. But there's got to be times as a mother that you've been nervous and scared and hope that he's okay. So can you talk about what that's like in the spirit of knowing that people are good at heart, but there's also some nefarious characters out there that don't believe, like Anne Frank does, that everyone is good at heart?
Yeah, sure. I actually try to keep tabs on my son just with a simple text, knowing that he's at work, or knowing that he's on his way home, knowing that he made it home. Or sometimes I actually sat on the phone, we had a whole conversation, knowing that I wanted to just make sure that he got from point A to point B safely. But of course, I don't want him to know that I'm nervous. I don't want him to know my concern. So I always try to change it up, just what are you doing? How are you doing today? What is going on? So that he doesn't get what my fear is. But as a mother, knowing that what's going on, and going back to Anne Frank, knowing that people are good at heart, that people do have that, the intention would not be mischievous. There's no malice in it. But what the outcome could be would be a negative thing. And we have to look at that as, I want to, go back to what Margaret said earlier when she spoke about the police. It's not all of them. It's the person. As a whole, they're okay. The bad apples that are in between there are the ones that you have to pick out. And that's where the nervousness as a mother comes when you have sons and they're out there in the world and I can't control that. See, when they're little and you can cradle them, you can protect them because you have them close. But at some point you have to let them go and let them live, and you don't fall and you still catch them, but from afar. But you still allow them that time to grow is the more nervous part, because we can't catch them as quick as we want to. We can't protect them as much as we would like to, because there is that distance. So with that gap being there, it comes into more, I guess, the parent has to be more creative in how we make sure that our sons are protected, giving them the right advice. Given that I had to have the conversation with my son to say, if you're approached, hold your hands up, say your name, say whatever it is that they want you. And no mother should ever have to have that conversation with your son, that you have to do whatever they say to keep you alive. You shouldn't. It's unfair. But to know that my son had to do that, I had to say that I have a phone in my pocket, I have a water bottle, and I have my house keys. And I couldn't do anything because I'm miles away. Yet I was on the phone when it happened. And all he could do was shove his phone in his pocket because an officer came up to him. I shouldn't have to feel this way. I shouldn't have to have that conversation with him. To know that people are good, we need to see the good. That means the bad apples we have to extract so we can see the good. Because with the bad apples in place, we cannot. The fog is there and we had to remove it in order for us to see the good in people.
I honor your tears, Chanita, because your son is a scholar. He's a brilliant, beautiful boy. I know he's watching right now, but I wonder if there's advice that you could give to Jeremiah. He's just an innocent, sweet middle school kid. What advice could you give to Jeremiah that you would give to your sons to make sure that he knows that he matters, to feel safe and protected? Look at that beautiful face, Jeremiah, who gives the best hugs I know. What advice could you give him in these trying times?
Don't let anyone change who you are. Continue to be you because you will shine no matter what. Others will try, but know that when you are doing good, you will prevail. And it will only make you stronger. The things that you go through will help mold you for the things that's going to come. You have to have thick skin. Even if you have to fake it till you make it, sometimes you have to. But until you get there, continue to be who you truly are. Because once you change, there's no going back. Because then you become who they want you to be. So continue to be you and shine through anything, no matter what.
I'm going to ask another mother on this call, Margaret. I know that you have a really special symbiotic connection to Joseph. As a mother, what kind of advice could you give to Joseph, also a teenager, also someone living in trying times? What kind of advice could you give to Joseph?
Well, it's clear from hearing you speak, Joseph, that you've got a good, strong mind and a good sense of self. You seem to be a really proud, self-sufficient young man. And I know it hasn't been easy for you. I don't know you personally that well, but I know that you have not had an easy childhood. And I have a 28-year-old daughter who also has a very strong backbone and knew what she wanted and didn't want to let anything stop her from getting there. And I'm so proud of her. And she studied peace and justice studies and international relations. And she sought to understand her family, where her family came from and where she can bring things in the future to make this world a better place. And I see that in you. And don't give up the dream. And if people try to cut you down, that's their problem. Mm-hmm. They need to work on themselves.
Right.
Roger, you enlightened us all with your adaptation of Otto, speaking to Anne. But I love that your sweet son is in your lap in real time. So would you do us the honor of looking at your son in real time, knowing that it is Anne Frank's birthday, knowing that there are protesters on the street, honoring George Floyd and all of those names that are no longer with us. Can we just be voyeuristic for a moment and see what a tender father lovingly says to a son when the world is upside down and we have to adapt to a new normal?
What would I say to you, son? What would I say?
I don't know.
I think I'd say that I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that you might say the same thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that we express our love is very different from day to day. But right now, I'm holding you closely, and I'm looking at you in real time, and I'm looking at you on a screen. And we are always giving thanks for this moment that we are able to embrace each other, because there are so many parents and children all over this world who are not allowed to have this blessing. And this is one of the great tragedies, of course, of the story of Anne Frank, whose father came back from the war, hoping that he would be reunited with her and with her sister and with their mother, and he was not. So they had to find another way. He had to find another way to express the profound and enduring love that he had for her.
I don't know the story of Anne Frank or Otto Frank.
Well, one day you're going to read that book. Tell the story instead of me. You can be my study. Okay.
Okay. Hey, Roger, I want to say to your sweet son,
This is
I have a copy. So do we. Because I'm a nerdy teacher.
He hasn't read it yet.
So someday when you read this book, and oftentimes they teach it in middle school or high school, you're going to see the lessons of a young girl who used the power of words in the way that your father does. Words are better than weapons. And this girl left a legacy for us to read, for us to celebrate, and to honor. Today is her birthday. And like so many people that have lost their lives due to senseless violence, she's no longer with us. But we honor her that. Margaret, I want to turn to you in our final moments together. And you were the reason that we got together today. A lot of us felt helpless and powerless and silenced. And that's not what Anne was. She used her voice. So it was important for you to rally us, to rally a community near and far in solidarity. So can you talk to us about the importance of what you think solidarity means?
Solidarity, I'd have to look up the actual definition in the Webster Dictionary, but it makes me think of a unit, us standing together. And a couple of years ago when I called you, Erin, and 5 or 6 of other close friends who believe in human rights, and we started making plans, and it took a long time, and then I stood in solidarity with our dear friend Jan-Erik Dubelman, who works at the Anne Frank House, and his cohort, Aaron Peterer in Austria, and then Doyle Stevick and Morgan at the University of South Carolina, and Devin, and we all started working together. And we hadn't really launched Anne Frank LA. We'd had a couple of events that we hosted, but 2 weeks ago, with the death of George Floyd, I realized that unless we take action and speak out, we might as well not exist. So Erin, you and I talked, you conceived this moment, and I'm forever grateful to you. Let's make a difference. Help me understand how I, as a white Jewish woman, can help.
Chanita, Jacques Pollock gave you an award called the Spirit of Anne Frank. You are the embodiment of that award. So today, with everything that's happening in the world, what does solidarity mean to you as you honor Anne Frank's spirit, but you honor the spirit of so many other lives that were also lost?
Solidarity for me means one. There's no pieces. There's not a certain part. It's not 50% here and then some of them go that way. That means it's one unit. So as a whole, you drive in as one. That means it's all or nothing. You're either with us or you're without us. It's very simple to me in my definition. So for me, solidarity is very simple. It's you drive in as one.
Mm. Jeremiah, you are the face of this nation. You are youth, you are pure, you are innocent, and we want you to be in solidarity with us. And we want to be in solidarity with you. So for us to be in solidarity with you, what does that mean? What do you need from us as adults, from different parts of the world? What can we do to make you feel safe, to make you feel loved, to make you feel whole?
I just need a lot of like help because me and my family, we don't have much. We moved out here. I found a lot of peace, but since I moved out here, I don't have much to do. And since quarantine, I haven't been really having enough time to sit down with my mom and tell her how much I love her as much because me and my mom have a good relationship with each other, and I tell her all the time I don't want to lose her at a young age. And she tells me that's never going to happen, but sometimes I have these dreams where I lost my mom and I never get to see her again before I get older. So all I need is just much love and just a little more help with my family.
Jeremiah, can you look right at the camera as if you're looking right at your mom? And this is going to live forever. So right in this moment, give her the biggest gift and tell her exactly what you need to tell her about love and about being there and about being safe. Just that's the gift you can give her. So look right at the camera as if you're looking right at your mom and give her this special gift.
Mom, I love you, and I just want you to be there for me every day of the week so I'll be able to protect you when I get older and pay off the bills for you so you don't have to suffer. I love you, and I want you to be happy every day with me because I'm going to make you happy every step of the way. And I'll help you a lot in the house with my little sister. And I want you to be safe with me all the time. And I love you.
Jeremiah, you know why I asked you to be on this panel is because you lead with love. Even when bad things happen to you, sweetheart, you smile and you hug. And I think you too are the embodiment of what Anne Frank was. You truly believe that people are good at heart. You truly do. Is my sweet Joseph still there? Joseph, because you are the same age as Anne Frank when she picked up that pen and she wrote, there is a power with words. So I would like you to look at the camera and I would like you to speak directly to Anne Frank as if she was here. She'd be 91 today, but I'd like you to look at her as if she was still your age, still a teenager and writing and wanting the world to be better and wanting to have a voice when she was voiceless. What could you say to Anne today on her birthday?
One, happy birthday. And two, thank you for educating thousands, maybe millions of people with your work that seems simple to you, but was actually very prominent. And thank you for educating the masses.
Joseph,
your ideas of not what most people consider
Hey, Joseph, I have a question for you.
Almost people are good at heart. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay, Joseph, I have a question for both you and Jeremiah. There are some really special people that are watching today. And for a lot of kids who were home, we learned they don't have the best technology. They don't have the newest computers. And a lot of kids had to borrow a school computer. So if you and Jeremiah could get a brand new computer, do you think that would help you be a better student?
Yes, but
yes.
It would, let the students know that that there's much more ahead of you than behind you, because people say you have to look into the future, which is right, because everyone isn't wrong. Everyone goes from right from wrong. Like sometimes you don't have a good answer, and if you have the new computer, you can share it with your students or your teachers or like your nearest parents or brother or sister. But you have to know that everything, you're not going to get your way, because sometimes you have bad things coming, or you sometimes have good things. But everyone has to see that everything is going to come your way at any time, in any place, in any moment.
Well, you know what I'd like to do for you, Joseph and Jeremiah, is I'm going to try to talk to some friends, maybe even some friends on this call. And I'm going to try to get both of you young men a brand new computer. I think that it would make going to school easier. I think it'd be easier if in these Zoom calls, and it would be easier for you to watch the documentary about Margaret's parents and that beautiful play that Roger made. So that's going to be my birthday gift to Anne Frank. I'm going to pay it forward, and I'm going to figure out a way to get Joseph Horowitz and my sweet Jeremiah Massengill a computer. So that's going to be my mission. Would you gentlemen kindly accept a birthday gift in Anne Frank's honor, so that you can be the best students you can be, so you can have the best access to education, and that you can continue to learn?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. I know I've kept some of you on much longer than originally promised, but in honor of Margaret, I would like to say thank you for allowing us to come together. You were our muse, and in honor of all of your friends, some of them are friends you've had for a long time, and some of them are friends that you are going to hold close to your heart today. Can you take us out with some final thoughts, some final marching calls, and a call to action, along with getting computers for these beautiful boys? I'd like you to end this amazing opportunity with something that we can do, something that we can say, something that we can be.
My father's 6 lessons. Don't be a bystander. Work for peace. Don't generalize. Don't discriminate. We're living in an amazing country that has the potential to be an amazing country. We are not living that right now. So please, let's all work together to make the United States and the world as safe and good a place where all human beings are a unit in solidarity.
As we say goodbye, I'd like each and every one of you to look at our audience and just say, in solidarity. Joseph, can you say in solidarity?
In solidarity.
Jeremiah, can you say in solidarity?
In solidarity.
How about my beautiful Chanita? You're
in solidarity.
Oh, there we go. Roger, I'm going to ask your sweet son to do us the honors.
Go on, son.
In solidarity.
Oh my God.
In solidarity, or
perfect. Roger, would you do us the honors?
In solidarity.
And last but not least, Margaret, yet again.
In solidarity. Lovely to be with you all.
Thank you all for joining us. Your homework assignment is to watch, to read, to do, and discuss. This is just the beginning. May you go and have courageous conversations. Thank you. Happy birthday, Anne.